Hi, this is Len Foley, and I want to welcome you to a special one-on-one interview with T. Harv Eker. You may have read T. Harv's #1 New York Times best-selling book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, or perhaps attended one of his frequently sold-out seminars. His company, Peak Potentials Training, has helped almost 1 million people transform their lives. This interview is the next evolution of his life's work, or rather, the online member site richlifeclub.com, where we post these monthly interviews, where you get to ask T. Harv any question you like, is the one place where you get access to T. Harv Eker and thousands of dollars worth of his cutting-edge information to help you grow to a new level in your life. Plus, you can now have direct access to T. Harv Eker via your computer 24 hours a day, 7 days per week, 365 days per year. I encourage you to visit richlifeclub.com and take advantage of the special offer that's listed on the front of this CD jacket, but only for a limited time. So don't wait. Go to www.richlifeclub.com. On behalf of T. Harv Eker and myself, we thank you for listening, and we look forward to hearing about your rich life success.
I'm going to just open up with some questions that we got from our listeners, and I wanted just to read a little segment from your book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. The only way to permanently change the temperature in the room is to reset the thermostat. And in the same way, the only way to change our level of financial success permanently is to reset your financial thermostat. Now, obviously, you've had your thermostat set at many different temperatures during your life. However, in the past 5 to 7 years, you've kept your thermostat at an even, I guess we could say, 1,000,000 degrees since you've become a millionaire. What would you say are some of the biggest contributors in your life that led being able to change your thermostat in order for you to become a millionaire?
Well, that's a great question. So I'd say the things that led me to being a millionaire was not being a millionaire. Literally, I mean, if you take a look at it, when you want something badly and you don't have it, that's a pretty big motivation. Let me get real specific. I think about this quite a bit, actually, because I'm very, very grateful. I do a meditation every morning, and at the end of that meditation, I do a gratitude piece for about 2 minutes, and I basically state what I'm grateful for in my life. And one of the things, of course, way after the family element and the people in my life and things like that, is I am definitely grateful for my wealth. And so I constantly, literally think every day about the fact that I don't remember too long ago where I wasn't very wealthy, and I was again I never was completely broke and eating out of garbage dumpsters, thank goodness. But when you really want success and you barely pay for gas, that's a problem. So I do think about this quite a bit, but I would say there's a few pieces. Number one is from a change element is that I really believe that I thought I was doing whatever it took, but in fact, hindsight's 20/20, and I wasn't doing whatever it took. I was doing what was convenient. I was doing what was comfortable, and I was living in resort areas and having lots of fun. But definitely, my fun part of it, my time that I devoted to fun, was definitely more than devoted to work. And even though I thought I was working hard, I had no idea what working hard was. Okay, and the amount of time and energy that you really do need to put in at the beginning of anything to get it moving and get some momentum. So I'd say that the first thing is my habits were poor. And that's so important because, in fact, as many of you know, I have a son and a daughter, of course, and my son is 18, and he's an amazing kid. He's great. He's very smart, good looking, of course, and I can't say enough about him. At the same time, however, he doesn't do fantastic in school, but he certainly could if he wanted to. And what I say to him all the time is I say, Jess, you're going to be very successful. And I believe that because he's smart and he has a great model. And I'll say that not arrogantly about myself, but if I had a dad that was incredibly successful, there's a good chance conditioning-wise, modeling-wise, I'm just going to absorb some of it. And so, he's had the fortune of seeing how I work and the habits that I have and the skills that I utilize and where I think and things like that. So he will be successful. But I say to him, you know what? The only question you have to ask yourself is, when do you want to be successful? Because right now, with the habits that you have, as in it's much more important to watch television, movies, be with your friends, and be on the play video games and be on the computer with MSN than any schoolwork. You will be successful, but you'll be successful at 40. It's going to take you a long time and it's because of the habits. He doesn't have success habits. And so, he reminds me of myself so much. When I was that age, I played all the time, and there's nothing wrong with playing. But you know what? Comes a time where you have to devote yourself, literally commit to success, and part of that commitment is doing whatever it takes, and it will take an incredible amount of energy, work energy, to get the momentum going at the beginning of anything. And once you've got the thing going, then of course it's a whole different story if you've systemized it right. So I think developing success habits is the number one thing. The second thing I think that made a big difference was confidence. Now, was I really confident? Well, I thought I was confident, but I wasn't sure. Why? Because I never made any serious money. How could I possibly be sure? I was dreaming. Oh, yeah, this is going to be $1 million, and that's going to be $1 billion, and that's good. But, talk is really cheap, as most people know that I say all the time. And so you say that, but in your mind you go, yeah, well, how come it's not happening so far? And so you start to wonder after a little while, after 5 or 10 or 7 or 3 years of trying and nothing's happening, and you start losing a little bit of that confidence. And so confidence is incredibly important. So how did I become very confident? Simple. I had a success, you see. I began to do things, small things, just to earn a living so I could actually pay my rent, in an entrepreneurial way that I was able to shine and create some success on it. For example, even when I was 21 years old or 22 years old, I had left school when I was a couple of years before that, and so I literally was been trying for many, many years, and I remember I was working at a booth selling hats at a fair, and the guy, I started doing pretty well with these hats, and you kind of write the rock band's name on them in glue, and then you put sparkles on it, whatever. But my booth did so much better than everybody else's because I was into it. I was passionate about it. I mean, it's just hats, but I would say I wasn't afraid to talk to people, and I'd say, hey, come on over here. And I worked on commission. Well, by the middle of that fair, he said, do you want to kind of be partners in this? If you want, you can just buy the hats from me, and then you can make all the money you want. And I said, you know what, I'll do that, because I made a few bucks for the first few days. And literally, at that age, it was the first time I actually started making $300, $400, $500 a day, which isn't terrible for a 21, 22-year-old. And I'm going, wait, this is good. And so I didn't have to have a big business, but I started having a bit more confidence in it. And then as I proceeded and tried a few other bigger things, it didn't work out as great. I always remembered that. And so when I needed to, I came back to fairs and flea markets, and I got little products and created a little special on them. But I would still all the time be able to make $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 a day with these little pens or these pen watches or whatever. So you need to have some successes. So what I encourage everyone to do is you don't have to be huge right now, but you do have to start to condition, as we talk about in the courses, success breeds success, and you do have to start to condition yourself for success. So find at least something, especially in the business arena, where you are successful at, and just plug away at that and become more successful at that, so you ingrain that conditioning. So I think, the habits are very important first, then the confidence of having one success at a time. And then the third thing that I think was really a big turning point was really recognizing that success really is a learnable skill, and especially business success. And certainly you have to have some acumen for it, but hey, that's kind of a given. But in general, though, the things that I didn't know you could learn marketing, I didn't know you could learn negotiations, but you can. And I learned them, and it works. And then you start to develop your own pretty soon. I teach marketing and negotiations because I start to develop your own. But a lot of the things I learned and I began using on my own, and then you tweak it a little bit. So literally the willingness to be involved in your own education, learn the skills in one way or another, whether it's through books or whether it's through CDs, or whether it's through seminars, or however you want it, it feels right for you modality-wise. But I'm still learning, and I feel that as long as I'm a good learner, I will always grow. And so those three things are what I believe are the key elements. Number one, success habits, and that, by the way, includes portion of your blueprint, your success blueprint. And number two is the confidence, one major step at a time, one success. Just get some successes under your belt. And number three, learning business skills, learning marketing, learning negotiations, learning communications, learning how the finance side of it works. You can learn those skills, and once I put those things together, it just starts taking care of itself, because the truth is, there's just not that many great business people out there who have great habits, you see. And if you put those two things together, you've got great success habits and you've got great skills, and you're a hard worker, it's going to be pretty hard to stop you.
I agree. Success habits are so important, and anybody can have access to a library where they can get tapes and books and all kinds of resources. But in order to learn the business skills, is it enough just to listen to tapes and to read books, or do we really need to engage our entire body and mind? For instance, to become an apprentice for somebody, or maybe go to a seminar where we're actually engaging people with our full being rather than just our brains absorbing good information.
You know, my preference, of course, because most people know what I do, and I'm a trainer, and I'm an experiential trainer, and the reason I am is because I believe that's the way to learn. You know, there's a saying, as we all know, is what you hear you tend to forget, what you see you tend to remember, but what you do you understand, and you can keep with you for the rest of your life. So I'm in no way saying that books are not effective or that CDs are not effective. In fact, they are quite so. To my surprise, actually, people tell me all the time that how they've changed their lives, and this is happening in their life, and this is happening. I go, really? Wow, what course were you at? And they go, I haven't been at a course yet. I go, well, how did that happen? They go, well, just from reading your book. I go, you got to be kidding me. And the things I hear are just so profound that I've really actually altered my beliefs around this, and I think books can be very, very useful as long as you do what the book asks you to do, which is a whole other story. So then you get into the doing part, right? So if you're at a seminar, especially one of our seminars like Guerrilla Business School or things like that, where we actually put people into the experience, you don't just learn it, but you actually go out there and practice it and do it. If we're teaching negotiations, as you know, by the end of that 2.5 hours or 2 hours of data, you go out there and you start doing it, and you have time to practice it and debrief it and get decent at it. And then, of course, when you go home, you're just doing the few elements that you learned there, and it doesn't take, people think it takes 58 million things to be successful, and the answer, that's incorrect. That just complicates things. You only need to do a few things well. And negotiations, there's only 3 or 4 real critical elements to start with. You can certainly learn some more details and more distinctions and a few more tactics and whatnot, but for the main part, there's a few key elements. If you do those, you're gonna do well negotiating. Same with marketing, 5 or 6 key elements. That's it. So those are very learnable, and I do believe that the experiential element is the most important element. So whether it's coming to a seminar, I wouldn't say any seminar, because if you sit there listening to the instructor yak for 5 hours, what's the difference? And you do a writing process, great. If you're involved in role playing, if you're involved in going out there and doing it, that's a whole different world. And it's the same with being an apprentice or whatever, whereby you actually have an arena with which to do it, which is, again, with my kids. They go to school and they have this, work experience, they call it, basically. And so they've got the value of that, and they go out and start doing stuff. So, doing it ingrains it into your body, however which way you want to put it. And of course we teach seminars, so we're pretty partial to those, but I think it's anyways a start, but if you don't do it, it's just going to be in one ear and out the other, and I think everybody understands that.
It's really interesting too that our country has been historically built on the doing model and not the thinking and the wondering model, and the apprentice mentor model has been so instrumental. In fact, when we first came to this country, there weren't schools for medicine or for skilled trade. You had to work under somebody for a year or two and learn directly under them and actually doing what they're telling you to do. And I think that model is just so powerful, but it shocks me how few schools actually use it.
Yeah, the old blacksmith, you didn't tell somebody how to be a blacksmith. You say, here, get the horse, get the shoes, let's go.
You mentioned some interesting stuff, too, about comfort zones, and in your book, you say that poor people and most of the middle class are not willing to be uncomfortable or to expand their comfort zones, and in fact, being comfortable is their biggest priority in life. But you also write that the secret of the rich and highly successful people, the secret that they know, that being comfortable is highly overrated, and it may make you feel warm, fuzzy, and secure, but it doesn't allow you to grow. What would you say some of the biggest comforts that you had to give up on your path to becoming a multimillionaire?
Well, I don't know if I would call them comforts necessarily. I guess I haven't framed them quite that way for myself, but I would say that there were some definite obstacles. And probably the biggest obstacle for me personally was a lack of clarity and a lack of focus. Meaning I was one of those people, I left school at the end of the first year of college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And just going to school and plugging away, and it wasn't interesting to me because here I am learning XYZ subject, and I'm thinking to myself, I am never going to use this again. What a waste of time. Might as well be out there trying to, work in an area that I think I'm going to spend my future in, but I didn't know what that was. And so, what happened for me when I was young is my parents always kind of ingrained the fact that I'm going to be a lawyer. It's as simple as that. And so I just kind of took that as gospel. Yeah, I'm going to be a lawyer. But at the first year in college, I got a chance to follow a law class around for a week, and I hadn't even thought about it twice. And I said, oh, yeah, of course I'm going to be a lawyer. And I didn't even last a day. And by the end of that first day of following this law class around and learning all about the writs and the rules, and I was second born, so I'm a rebel, so I'm the antithesis of rules. I'm going, oh my God, that's the last thing I ever want to do is be in one of these classes, let alone 4 years of it in my whole life. I'm out of here. So I didn't even last a day, and then I'm going, now what? So that's one of the challenges I have with people forcing, life decisions on young kids and whatever. That literally, you need to let it come from their heart. And when we're expected to do something, we never think about it twice. And that's why I have so many unhappy people doing what they're doing. But literally, I say for myself, a lack of focus was a big one. And meaning that because of my quote unquote what I thought was a smart, intelligent business move, which means having several businesses going at once, and so I can have backups and possibilities. And if this doesn't work, then maybe that might work. And I got a shot at this, and both of them might work at the same time. And why? And you know what? All that happened was I went broke, and I went from earning a decent living to earning no living. And I learned very quickly that you do have to focus. It's hard enough, as I've shown in the seminars many times, to get the rocket off the ground. You need all the energy, all those rocket boosters, all the power facing in one direction. As the warrior says, all your horses facing in the same direction when you go into battle. So, you need every ounce of energy you have, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, every piece of it, to really get the momentum up, to get things going at the beginning. As I said, later, if you do it properly the way we teach you, basically, in systemizing things, you can certainly have a lot more coasting that occurs because of you're pulling the strings from afar and much more leverage. But at the beginning, there's no question. At the beginning of anything, it takes a lot of energy and effort. And so when you go into 3 or 4 things at once, you're dissipating your energy, and no matter how you want to slice it. Well, you know what? I'm only going to spend an hour a week at this one, and get real here. You know what that hour a week turns into. If you're going to do it well, it turns into 5 hours or 10 hours. And that's not even well. And so pretty soon, there's something that I teach. It's called the law of maintenance, and it says that everything you put your time energy into is going to take maintenance. It's not just that, hey, I'll just make this call, but then have you noticed, a good example of that, Len, is your email. You get an email. Now, how much maintenance does that take? Well, everyone gets now 50, 100 emails, every week, if not more. I get 50 or 100 a day. And what do? You have a tendency to email them back because you're courteous, right? Sure. But when you email them back, what does that cause? They email you back. Now you got, from one email, you've got 16 emails for the next 3 months. You go, oh, my God. Now, you know what I'm saying? So everything has a law of maintenance. You get a car. You're going to have to maintain it. It's not just the buying of the car. You have a relationship. You better maintain it. It's not just hey, how are you? Let's have a date. Well, there's a lot more that goes on. So everything has maintenance, and that maintenance takes time. So I'm going to encourage everybody. One of the things I've always said is a disagreement with a lot of the other trainers out there, and there's a lot of people who teach multiple streams of income. And that's a great idea from an idea standpoint. The problem with most people is that they don't understand that, multiple streams of income at once is going to be an issue at the beginning. What that means is people say, well, I'll just do these 4 things. But what happens is nothing, because you don't do any of them well. And as I said earlier, it takes every amount of energy you've got to get one thing going well, let alone 4 things at once. And so, the idea is multiple streams of income, one at a time. You start with one. You get it moving well. You systemize it so it can work without you. Then you have the right to move to the second one. After that one's working well and the first one is still systemized and working well without you, then you have a right to go to another one. Now, people say all the time, well, what if I want to like invest in real estate while I'm doing my business? Well, great, and that's a good thing. But if you're going to be spending inordinate amounts of time looking for homes and buying homes and this and that, now you're in that business, and that's fine. But you better be ready for your initial business and your primary business possibly to blow up, because it probably will. If you do real estate in a leveraged manner, where you say, listen, I'm going to work with an agent or with partner, and their job's to find me homes, and certainly once in a while in an evening I can certainly entertain possibilities and have them do the work. If you're doing it with hands off, basically, it's a different story, because it's just an investment versus another business for yourself. So I would say that was one of the biggest things: focus, and clarity. Do your best to be clear. And one of the programs that I'd like to encourage everybody to consider is life directions, because clarity, has to come from, you have to be sure. You have to say to yourself, I know this is the right direction for me. And until you match what you're doing with your mission in life, with your purpose in life, which most people they think they know, but they don't know until they do the very specific processes that we're fortunate enough to have. Then all of a sudden they see it, oh my gosh, this is my mission, and then you build from there. So once your focus and your energy goes into a vehicle that is literally an outgrowth of your true mission of why you're here in your life, from a spiritual level and a really a living level, like everything in nature has a purpose for itself, and it's no doubt that people do also. Once if it's an outgrowth of that, you've literally got the best of both worlds. You've got money and you've got mission, and those two go together. If you get those two together, boy, you've got fulfillment and you've got financial success. You're not going to want for happiness. You're going to be a very happy person.
What would you say to somebody who maybe spends too much time working for too long, and they lose that delicate balance of having a lot of wealth, but also not having fulfillment and happiness and peace in their life at the same time? How do you go about achieving this in your own existence?
Well, I'm not going to come off as Mr. Guru on everything, because I don't. I'm not. This is a challenge for me. I said earlier too much time playing. Well, probably today I spend too much time working, even though I don't need to work anymore. It's just a habit, I guess. But I am getting better, and I can share with people what's helped me. Because literally, again, once you start working heavily and do whatever it takes and become a financial or a business warrior, you do whatever it takes, and pretty soon you find yourself putting lots of time and energy. Especially success breeds success, so opportunities come my way by the dozens, and it's like, wow, why wouldn't I want to do that? So it is a challenge for me, but like I said, I have had some success, and when I do have success, these are the things that work for me. I go back to a whatever it takes, habit. We are creatures of habit, and so you've got to, if your habit is to play too much, you got to start changing the habit so that you are now balancing that. If your habit is to work too much, you need to start to change the habit. Now the thing about habits is that they're conditioned into our body and our body mind, so they have to actually become physical. So you have to say, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to balance. So now it's not just whatever it takes to make money and business success, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to balance my work life and my home life and family life and my play life and my relationship life. So one of the things about Success Tracks, for those people who are involved in our program, Success Tracks, it's a coaching system for those who don't know, but it really has 7 elements, 7 areas that you balance. It's a wheel, and they all have to be perfectly balanced for the wheel to be smooth. Otherwise it gets very bumpy, and it feels that way. And so literally, you have to, first of all, have the belief that like in our wizard training, you are a deliberate creator. You are a person like that your life is a manifestation, that you are the one in charge of that manifestation, and that you create your life. So, I create my life. I create my reality. And how do I do that? Well, I do it as a co-creation with the universe. And so literally, you have to believe that first, that since I create my life, I can create the life that I want. The life I want is a balanced life. I don't want to only work, and I don't want to only play, and I don't want to spend inordinate amounts of time on the computer, whatever it is. So I want a balanced life. So that's the first thing, is you have to decide that, and you have to make that your intention, and you have to do whatever it takes. So I have a method, and if we can put this up or they can write it down, that would be awesome. But here's some 5 steps that I'd like to encourage everybody to utilize. And the first step is about intention. And intention means that this is what you're intending, and what it means is you're clear. It gives you clarity about what you want. So you can't just say to someone, it's good to balance your life, and they go, well, that's nice. They have to say themselves, you know what, that is what I want, and that is my intention, and that gives me my clarity. So you have to say, this is what I want. I want balance in my life. And what does it look like? What does that mean, balance in my life? It means for some people it might just mean I just want, my play life, my work life. For other people it might say I want my play life, my work life, my health life, my relationships life, all of those pieces put together. And so that's up to you, but you have to be clear. So the first thing is intention, clarity, clear intention. This is, again, part of what we do in wizard training for those of you who remember who've already taken it. The second thing that's just as important is commitment. So number one, clear intention. Number two is commitment. You see, the word commitment means to devote oneself unreservedly. I'm going to repeat that, to devote oneself unreservedly. And what that means is that, if you say, well, I want balance in my life or anything else in my life. I want some balance in my life, and this is what it's going to look like. Well, so what? That's nice that you want it. There's a lot of things you want, but you don't do anything about it. So the first thing is that, and you say, well, I'm going to do something about it. Well, why? What's the motivation? Like that kind of thing. So you have to actually go through the step of commitment. Why? Because you're changing a habit, which we can talk about after. And if you're not going to say to yourself, I am 100% committing to this, then there's a really good chance you're not going to do anything, even though you have good intentions. We all know the same thing. Sometimes I feel like dropping a few pounds myself. I say, you know what, I want to drop a few pounds here, and like 5 pounds in the next month or so, and then lunchtime comes and I order a burger. It's like, why? Because I'm used to ordering a burger or something like that, or a club sandwich or some pasta or something. You go, well, because I'm hungry and I want it and I've been teaching it, and my energy is, I've got all these rationale, but I'm not thrilled about salads. Why? Because my salad's not my habit. So but when I really do it, when I really want to drop 5 pounds, which I do every once in a while, I go to the next step and I say, not only am I going to drop 5 pounds, here's the day I'm going to do it by, and I fully commit to doing it. Now, this is where the Enlightened Warrior training comes in. Once you make a commitment, your word is your bond. This is over. There's no going back on it. So you do it just because you said you're going to do it, just because you committed. Once you commit, that's it. So commitment is very powerful, especially if you're an Enlightened Warrior and there's no way in your life you can possibly honor yourself and still go back on a commitment. So it's period over. Now, I'll say that. I'll say, I'm going to drop a few pounds here. And they go, oh, really? Do you commit to it? I went, no. Okay, well, I know I'm kind of, I'm fooling around now. And then sometimes they'll say, well, do you commit to it? And I go, I'll let you know, because I'm not going to commit to anything I'm not going to do. And the next day I go, that's it, I'm committing, okay? And they'll go, what date? Okay, good, there you go. So you've got to have that commitment. So number one, clear intention. Number two, commitment. Number three, you need a plan. I hate to say that because I'm not a real heavy-duty, detail guy necessarily, but I'm detailed enough to know that if I don't have a strategy, a plan, whatever you want to call it, then how am I supposed to know what to do? Because the next stage is doing. So, well, what do I do? How am I going to do this? So, okay, I'm going to drop 5 pounds. I commit to it. Now what am I going to do? Well, if I don't know what I'm going to do, I have no plan, then what happens? The menu is there in front of me, and I'm hungry. I'm going to order whatever I see, right? So the strategy is, okay, I'm choosing to work out 4 days a week, on the weights and everything, and I'm choosing to have some fruit for breakfast and salad for lunch and eat whatever I want for dinner. I'm going to stay up to dessert. So that's your plan. You've got a little plan there going. And it's the same with anything else that you've got going. If you say, I want balance in my life with my relationship, and you commit to it. Great. What's the plan? Well, I'm gonna take my my relationship, my other person out, or my friend out, whatever it is, my spouse out, every Tuesday night. We're gonna make a date night, and then on once a month, I'm going to send a gift of flowers or chocolates or whatever it is. In that case, we're gonna take a vacation every 4 months, just the two of us. And so, okay, that's your little plan. So you got a plan. Okay, so does that make sense at all so far?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so now you got your clear intention, number one. Number two, you got your commitment. Number three, you got your plan or your strategy. Number four, of course, is the action, the doing. So now you got to do it. You got to work your plan. You got to start. So the menu comes, and I'm looking at it and go, the burger looks really good today. By the way, I don't eat that many burgers. I'm just using an example. But I go, you know what? My plan and my commitment were that I'm going to have salad at lunch. So what salad do I want? And then I just order a salad. So that's my doingness of whatever it is. If it's sending flowers on once a month, I do that. If for my relationship, if it's for the idea of that you're going to take your relationship out on Tuesdays, you make the date for Tuesday. You decide what you're going to do. You look it up the week before, so you have something decent to do and stuff like that. So you have to do it. Now here's the critical piece, though. This is where everybody falls down on step number 5. Continue. Continuity. Continue. Ongoing. Okay, so the word is continue. Because what happens if you do it once? Well, you feel good about it, right? You say, hey, guys, this is great, but we're creatures of what? Habit. The problem with most people is they don't have any of these steps down, and if they do, they miss the last step, which is one of the key elements is you have to continue. You have to continue the doing this and the plan. Now, sometimes you have to change your plan. But whatever it is, to enhance it, because you go, oh, this isn't working, because I'm not home ever, or I can't order any salads, or whatever it is, my other significant other isn't around once a week, or doesn't even want to do that, or whatever it is. So you have to change your plan. But in general, whatever you're doing, you have to say, I continue to do this. Now you have to continue for how long? Well, lifelong. Basically, this is a habit. This is what you want. So it's not just a one-time thing, and the problem with most people is everything's a one-time thing. If they're really good, it's a 2-time thing. If they're spectacular, it's a 3-time thing. No, this has got to be an ongoing thing. This is what you chose as a way of living. So can I review the 5 of them? Clear intention is number 1. Number 2 is commitment. Number 3 is a plan or strategy. Number 4 is action and doing. And number 5 is continuous doing, continuity. So those are the elements of what has to change. Now, let me say that in our Life Directions program, we teach something called Big Rocks planning. And Big Rocks is a really wonderful way of a strategy of call it time management, but it's priority management. And all it means, let me give people a way that it works right now. All that means is that the things that you're committing to, the important things in your life are scheduled first. You go through your monthly schedule or your quarterly schedule, and you schedule those things first, i.e., I choose to play once a week. I choose to have a free day, once a week or whatever it is, like in Success Tracks. Or I choose once a month to go out with each of my kids separately, just have some kid and dad time, whatever. Or I choose to go with my relationship every Tuesday. Or I choose to work out 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever. And those things have to be scheduled like any other, and it's important as any other appointment you've got in your life as a business, as if you've got a chance to meet up with Queen Elizabeth or someone or Bill Gates or T. Harv Eker or somebody really important, it's like that. And you say, I'm not going to miss this. Are you kidding me? So you've got to make those appointments. And again, those people who are enlightened warriors or coming very shortly, you will know the importance of once you schedule it, once you give your word, that's it. It's over. You will do it because you are a warrior and your warriorship depends on it. And so you've got to schedule those big things in first. So those are the ways that I think people can do it. And if we want to talk about habits, that would be a good thing too.
I wanted to ask you one quick question, because I know in your wizard training you really stress the power of your word, and that once you give your word to something and you say, I'm committing to doing this, I give you my word, to make sure no matter what happens, come hell or high water, you're going to do it, because it's so important to have a successful track record over time to point to, saying, every time I give my word, I follow through. Would you recommend someone starting out not to get too over anxious, for instance, saying, I'm going to lose 200 pounds this month, and then realize on day 29 that they've only lost 41 pounds and have them feel horrible because they weren't able to keep their word, that maybe it's better to start to develop this muscle of commitment, because it really is a muscle, and the better that we start smaller and then work our way up to bigger and bigger commitments, the more powerful we're going to become. Would you agree with that?
Totally, 100%. That's a really great point. And again, as I said earlier, that's how you build confidence. You build confidence with small successes. So you start with you've got to succeed. If you don't succeed at some level, you will never continue. And so, because success breeds success, and part of that is just the understanding of how it feels. It feels really good to succeed. So, when you feel proud, one of the things I'm working on right now very heavily, and it may end up as a book in some way or shape or form, but literally, we do things that's very interesting. I was talking to my son about habits and things, and going, he's changing a couple of his habits. And by the way, I'm not in any way, he's an amazing kid. We're just trying to move him to a new level, and because he's going off to university pretty soon, I want to make sure that he's responsible for both, for having lots of fun and doing well in school. The idea is to do things that make you feel good about you. about yourself. And so what are the things that you do that you know when you do these things and think these things and are this way, you feel good about you? And, literally that's the most important thing, I think. Don't you think so? Because if you feel good about you, everything changes. You're going to be a happy person. It doesn't matter what is going on in your life, but if you feel crappy about you, you're not happy, are you? And so it all boils down to how you feel about you. And so, what you're saying is the same thing. How do you feel good about you? Well, one of those ways is success breeds success. In other words, you have to have a success. You have to have small successes. And so there's no use of saying I'm going to lose 200 pounds when you haven't lost 2 pounds. You start with 2 pounds. Then you go, away. I can lose another 2. I think, in fact, I was doing pretty good. I could lose 4. Then you go, well, maybe I can lose 10, and so on and so forth. There's no use. See, what you want to have to do, and again, as you know, we teach these in our programs, what you have to do is you have to set the full intention, but then you have to break it right down and say, okay, yeah, I'm interested in losing 200 pounds, but let's not go there right now. I like to do that. That'd be a good intention. But my commitment is to lose 2 pounds in the next 2 weeks. That's my commitment. I'm not committing to 200 pounds. Why would I commit to 200 pounds? I haven't even done 2 pounds. So why would I commit to $10 million or $50 million and feel crappy about myself because I'm always in a failure mode because I committed to it and I'm only at 100,000? I say, you know what? My intention is to be a multimillionaire or have a net worth of $20 million. So let's start with what's the real commitment? The commitment is that I earn $50,000 this year. My commitment is that next year I earn $75,000. Or that next year I double that to $100,000. That's my commitment. And you start from there, because success breeds success. Because once you're at 100, then you can go to 200. Once you go to 200, you can go to 300 or 400. More opportunities start coming your way. You get better at what you do. You start seeing things in a different way. You get to do bigger things, and it just breeds on itself. So I agree with you 100%. Success breeds success. You start with a large intention, but you only commit to the small one.
Dear Harv, there are so many marketers out there talking about all kinds of ideas. Who do you pay the most attention to or think have the most to offer, and why?
Well, you're expecting me to say me, which I don't. Here's the answer. It's obvious. I pay attention to the people who are massively successful. Who else am I going to pay attention to? The people who are ultra successful in their business with their methods, that's who I look at. I don't look at people who are touting this and touting that and say do this and do that. When I get a referral for a trainer who's got information on such and such, and then the first thing I look at is yes, I look at their information, then I look at the person basically, but then I look at their business and I go, well, how well are they doing? And if they're only doing moderate, I never hire them. Because what are they going to teach? How to do moderate? How could they do? So they might have these techniques, but if they're not even useful in the real world for them, or they can't use them, then what good is it? So my thoughts are that you model and you learn from people who are hugely successful in what they do. And if you're in the arena of, I don't know, sporting goods, the model methodology from people who are highly successful in sporting goods. Do what they're doing. Can you get other technologies and techniques from outside that arena? Of course you can, and you do. But you ask me who I watch, and I watch the people who are successful in my world, and I watch the people who are successful in other worlds in the marketing arena. And so I have a file of direct mail pieces and infomercials and scripts and all kinds of things that interest me, headlines, etc., that I rip out of magazines and newspapers and say, wow, what a cool way of framing that. And so but I'll tell you what, if I don't see that ad again, I just throw it out. Throw out the first one, because that means if that guy isn't doing it more frequently, that means it didn't work the first time. So I really take a notice, for example, on TV and radio, things that are with high frequency again and again and again and again, because nobody is stupid enough to put something on that they put it on 5 times and it doesn't work and they keep on running it. Nobody's dumb enough to do that. So if you see something on and over and over and over again, you know that it works. And I'll give you an example. There's this diet pill that I see on TV all the time. And now there's got a bunch of copycats. I forget the name of it. No, I'm not big into diet pills, and nor would I recommend them, by the way. But the way they structured it is that they said right from the beginning, this is the most expensive pill you're ever going to have or ever going to see. It costs da 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 da, but here's why.
And man, they're on the, so, you know, so the idea of having the cheapo pills, people are going, well, that must not work. And the fact that they came out right from the beginning, the first sentence goes, this is the most expensive pill you're ever going to buy. It's like, wow, really? Wow, what's it all about? And so that methodology is used by even people in my business. I have seminar trainers that I know of who, you know, the first thing they say, you say, I'm going to talk to you about this. I'm going to teach you about this. At the end, I'm going to offer this other seminar. But let me tell you and warn you right now, this is going to be probably the most expensive seminar you've ever taken. All right, let's go on. Now, see, you're already primed for it. And you're already thinking, man, I wonder how expensive that really is. And I wonder if it's worth it. So you're listening and listening and listening to think, is this going to be worth it or not? So, you know, that's what I watch. I watch things because at the end of the guy's talk, people run and pay, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 for his programs, and they are expensive, and the people are running to buy them. And I go, wow, that works. Okay, so model what works. What works in the real world. If I taught marketing, and at the end of my sessions, and I offer something, and 2 people walk to the back to buy it, then don't listen to me. It's ridiculous. You know, but what happens is generally people run to the back to buy stuff because, our number one aim is to solve problems for people. I only choose arenas that will really help people because it's helped me, okay? And then secondly, the product's got to be sizzling hot. It's got to be a great product. I mean, a super product. You have super service. You've got to have something that really, really works. Like, for example, I'm writing the Ultimate Leadership Camp, and just presenting that in 2 weeks. You know, and literally, I spend all day pretty well, except for when I'm on interviews, working on this thing. Now, I could have, in all honesty, done this whole, it's very experiential, so, you know, there's not that much data, but there's enough data. It's great. It's going to be the first leadership system ever developed. In other words, it's a template. It's a 10-step template. I shouldn't give you too much. It's a 10-step template. You follow A, then B, then C, and go right through it, and you can't miss. It's a guarantee to not only be a great leader, but to succeed at anything. And so literally, first time it's ever been packaged in a way that people can just understand. What do I do first, then what do I do second, then what do I third, etc. So, but here's the thing. I could have really done this thing in a couple of days. There's just no question. You know what? It's taken me over a month and a half. Why? Because wow. I'm meticulous. I'm meticulous. Every single piece that goes into that, every word, every exercise, every process, every minute of change, the declarations. Wait till you see these declarations. They're not. That's all I can say. So I'll tell you again after. These are unusual to say the least. They have body movements involved. They have questions involved. I'm not going to tell you anymore. But, you know, the goal is that it's going to be a sizzling hot program, and I'm making sure that. In fact, just to let you know how I feel about the quality of what you have to do, when I started talking to a very big player about the leadership camp, he said, you know what, this has to go to corporations. You should have a complete corporate division around this whole thing. I said, well, that's what the plan is. I definitely plan. He says, you know what, nobody sells corporations like I sell corporations. I can market the heck out of this for you. Get me the script of it right now. I'll start marketing it immediately. By the time you're done these next 2 programs, you'll have a lineup of people to go into more programs. I said, you know what? Talk is cheap. And he goes, what do you mean talk is cheap? I'm the number 1 guy in the world. I said, no, not you. Me. I can say what I want right now. It doesn't mean a thing. My talk is cheap. First, we do the programs. First, we get the programs to where they're a level 11 out of 10. Then I'll let you market them, okay? Let's get the programs right first. Let's get them to a level 10 or 11. Then it's time to put them out in a way that it goes big. So, you know, I follow my own rule. And talk is cheap. You know, I can yak all I want, but the reality is the course hasn't even occurred yet. What do I want somebody marketing it for you? And yet they're running to market it. Great idea, but hey, your product's got to be to where it really sells itself. Now, let me just explain this here. How could you lose if your product sells itself because of the quality? In other words, everybody wants it because of the quality, and you're a super hot marketer on top of that. You know, hey, 2 elements. Sizzling hot product, super hot marketer, it's pretty tough to blow it. Don't you think?
That's excellent advice. And I think some people get more into the marketing and promotion area, and they don't realize that they also have to have something good that can back up that marketing, which is an exceptional product. Cause
you make it exceptional. You develop it. You find it. You create it to be exceptional, so that it works for people very specifically. And so, you said people get caught up in the marketing game. You know why you said that, Len? Because you're in the marketing game. You're in the marketing arena. You understand marketing. Just as many people, from the question before you asked me, get caught up in the hot product or the hot service. My fingers are magic. When I do Reiki on people, they are healed forever. Who cares? Nobody knows. Okay, you could be God. Doesn't matter. Nobody knows. Literally, people are either they have the mentality of I have a hot product. I don't know anything about marketing and business, or I'm a hot marketer, but whatever I can get my hands on, I'll market. The answer, of course, is what? Both.
Yes.
Hot product, hot marketing, and you've got a killer situation there. And you get to help a lot of people. Because if you're got a great product and nobody knows, you don't help anybody. If you're a great marketer and a crummy product, you don't help anybody. The idea, you start with rule number 1, solve a problem. What's the definition of a business? A business person, an entrepreneur, a person who solves problems for people at a profit. What's the key elements there, okay? Solving problems, okay? And then you do it at a profit. That's solving problems is the product, and the profit is the business side. Hello, this is not rocket science here.
Excellent. That is fantastic, Harv. Thank you so much. Dear Harv, I'm having a hard time dividing my time and attention between my lifelong business and my career and other businesses that I am currently starting up and don't know how long I'm going to be in them for. Do you have any suggestions?
You know what, I've said this many times. I think one of the big things is to focus. And I'm not saying to not have a secondary income, but as long as it's a passive income. If your initial income system, methodology, vehicle is not a passive income based one, and it can never be turned into a passive income based one, and you're not earning enough or keeping enough or saving enough to be able to eventually have this big golden goose of lump sum income, lump sum money that you're drawing from for your eggs, then you need to have a secondary business. You need to add to that, and that's going to, and it may take an hour or two a day or a weekend or whatever, but it's got to be passive income based. Everyone has to have a passive income business, period, over and out. It doesn't matter what it is, even if it's just on the investment side, as long as you know that you've got a system worked out for yourself, or else you'll be like the people we talked about before, where you retire and there's not enough money coming in. So that's the first rule, is focus. But you know what? It reels down again. It's sensible. Hopefully, it's just about understanding. Find one business that you love, and either creates big money or is a passive income proposition, and focus on it, and transition. I'm gathering, that this person here, from what I'm hearing, I don't think he likes either. I don't think the first one's great, and I don't think the dabblings ones are great. Because if you find something great, you don't dabble, and if you're in something fantastic, you don't look for others, right?
Right.
So it's like a relationship. If you're in a great relationship, you don't dabble, and if you're dabbling, it means something. And it's the same the other way. So I think this person and a lot of people, they've really got to find that vehicle. And I want you to know this. If you haven't taken life directions, take it. Or take it again, and take it with new eyes and a new heart, because, literally, you've got to come from square one. It's got to be, what's your mission in life? What's your vision in life? You put those two together and you work it. And if you can really work in a vehicle that is in alignment with what you're here to do on the planet, and everybody's different, okay? And then you can bring that out from your own heart. What are you here to do? And then you can package that in a business-based vehicle. You've got it made. You'll have money and you'll have fulfillment. And if you don't love what you're doing, continue to search. Don't give up what you're doing, but continue to search. Make that your part-time business. That search for the arena that will really light you up. And I'm hoping that it'll still be a methodology of creating a passive income from it. Now, by the way, every single business can turn into a passive income vehicle. Every one of them. All you have to do is follow the templates that we talk about in our courses, especially Guerrilla Business School. It's all about setting yourself up in a systemized manner that replaces you. So there's not even if you're in a personal service business, it doesn't matter, because you can still set those things up in a way that replaces you, whether it's hiring more people, doing it technology ways, whatever it is. So when I say passive income vehicle, your business can be a passive income vehicle that works without you. Either that or you're going to sell it, hopefully. But you can't sell it unless it works without you either, or else nobody will pay for it. So, that's my thing. Start from the beginning. Go back to your mission, your purpose in life. Go back to your heart. What do you love? By the way, so many people get caught up in doing what they have to do versus what they love to do. And, it's not a pipe dream. But it does take a transition. It does take a different mentality. It does take a commitment that says, you know what, I am just not going to settle for this. How many years do I have left? What is it? 20, 30, 50, 70 years for some of you? It goes fast, my friends. It goes fast. If you say you've got 50 years left right now, I'll tell you what, how fast did the first 50 go? It goes fast. You don't have a lot of time here. It's not worth it. It's not worth spending 8 or 10 hours a day doing stuff that you just don't like doing. Why? Well, I got to earn a living. You know what? There's lots of ways to earn a living. Lots of ways. You've got to come to the courses, learn business, learn marketing. I want everybody, no matter what you do, go to the world's greatest marketing seminar. And even Len, you even taught there about web clubs, for example, and showed people step by step how to put together what we're putting together here. So, why? Because it'll help you in any business you want. You go to Life Directions, you're going to learn about your mission. And I'm not here to tout the courses. These are just tools. If you want to learn from somebody else, go do it. Just learn somewhere, okay? Get books. I don't care.
Sure.
Do whatever you need to do. But these are all learnable skills. And literally, you get down to the basics. You got a mission. You got a heart. You got a purpose. Package that up into a business. Learn how to do business properly, whether it's through us or other people. Learn how to market well. Put your attention on solving problems for people, and you're going to do well. So
Excellent.
It's about finding one vehicle, not 10 vehicles that are iffy. Finding one that's pretty good, that you really love.
And stay in it until you get to where you want to go. Which brings us to our next question. Dear Harv, I have attended both your Guerrilla Business School and the World's Greatest Marketing Seminar. At both seminars, you emphasize the importance of staying focused on the one business and not getting distracted by other business opportunities. I have invested time and money and equipment on educating myself in the industry of printer cartridge refills. However, at the World's Greatest Marketing Seminar, I became very excited about developing a member website because I see the money-making potential of these sites. I've thought of ways I could possibly tie the member site in with my cartridge refill business, for instance, a member site on environmental issues, but that would definitely take my focus away from what I'm currently doing. Can you give me some guidance?
I do believe you have to choose again. I mean, the member site, I think, is something that takes time to build, and you'll probably be a better answer to this question than myself. But, the membership site, like everything else, will take time to build. If you're already in a business and you like the business and it's doing well, then I would say stick with the business and utilize, develop marketing methodologies, marketing add-ons that we taught at World's Greatest Seminar. And by the way, member site is just probably 1 out of 12 that we taught. And add them on one by one and make that the printer refill cartridge empire. I would probably focus on that at this point in time because the others are more or less tools. Now, if you weren't in that business or if you wanted to start something part-time around the site and you've got a great idea for a site that might work unto itself, not in conjunction with the cartridges, then you transition from that. But my thoughts are that a bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush, and stick to your knitting at this point in time. If it's doing well, focus on it and make it do better, utilizing the member site and the other elements that we taught there as adjuncts to your business. If you don't like it and it's not doing well, then you don't have much to lose. So move into another vehicle. And again, a member site. Well, you know what? A member site, again, to me, is a tool that you use with your business, but other people just have it as their tool. Len, I'm going to turn the question around. What's your feeling on this yourself?
Well, one thing I would definitely be aware of is that the business he's currently running, which is a cartridge refill business, has its own rules and systems that would differ greatly from a member site. The member site is a separate industry, a separate business altogether, and that just because you're succeeding in one area doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the skills to translate that into an online business. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that you need to realize that this is a whole new business that you're going to be adding on to something that you're doing offline. And the online world, as you know, Harv, is it's just a wholly different animal. Now, is it a lot of potential for making tons of money very quickly and creating a lot of passive income? Absolutely. But again, how much time is that going to take away from the learning you're going to be spending on your offline business to get online? I would totally recommend Harv's advice in getting your offline business going really, really well, so you're actually replaced by a lot of people who are running that system for you, and then start spending some time in developing your skills online. And unless your business is really running well on its own, I wouldn't try to balance both those at the same time. Because
yeah, not as a website business. Again, the member site or the website. I would probably start have a website, which I'm sure the person does have, and start getting a chat room together and start putting up pieces on your website. And if you can't attract people to your free website, you're not going to attract them to a paid membership, paid site. So I would probably start that way. And if you're starting to go, if people are starting to talk about your site and going, wow, you've really created a wonderful community here. Thank you so much. We get to chat with other people that they say, yeah, you know what? We have another level of that, and it's $25 a month, and yada yada yada. Then you can kind of transition into it. How does that sound?
No, that's fantastic. And so at least you're not building another business model that's, totally separate from the one you're already working in. It kind of works in harmony with that, and I think it'll give you a little more confidence also with the online marketing potential.
Perfect.
We are under our last question, Harv. You have such a great bunch of people working for you. I believe in Train the Trainer course. You mentioned that you don't give them equity positions in the company and that they work for you for little money. How do you compensate them, and how do you motivate them to continue working happily?
Well, I never said that they work for little money. I don't think that we underpay at all. In fact, we pay definitely the standard and more. The distinction is in one of courses. It's actually, I believe it's Guerrilla Business School. We teach people how do you get people to work for and with you for half of what they would for anybody else. And the answer to that is twofold. Number one, you have the vision and the purpose. In other words, if it's just money they're working for, then you're going to have to pay them a lot. But if part of their reward is you've got a strong vision of where you're going and the purpose of what you do, in other words, helping people, and people have that as part of their reward, then they don't need to get that much money from you. That's number one. But number two, our people do make a lot of money, those who actually are managers, decision makers, and who perform. The element is that you're going to pay them based on performance, not just a high base. I am not a believer in high bases. In fact, the other day we had an interview for someone at a very high level in our company, and they wanted to come in and that make this huge base somewhere else is a lot of money, and they wanted it to have at least that base and any type of performance. They said, well, you know what, I don't need that much performance. I just want to make sure that I have this base handled properly here. And I said, that's interesting. And then they sounded pretty good until they said that. And then when I walked away from that interview, I said I would never hire that person because they want to get paid a guaranteed salary. That's more important to them than the performance that they provide. And to me, it's value for value. And the truth is, I don't hardly believe in salaries at all. I mean, we pay everyone a salary, and we pay large salaries to our executives, I believe, large bases. But I would say that their performance is at least 50%. In other words, most people can make anywhere from 20 to another 100% on top of their base just on the performance that the company does and that they do. So I think, it's not about paying them little money. It's about paying them a small base, but the rest of it's paid on performance. And you go, well, that means I still have to pay them a lot. Well, yeah, but who cares? Because if it's paid based on performance, and the performance is part of that is how your company does, then you only pay them if your company does really well. If your company does lousy, that means
which makes sense, totally.
Yeah, so you have lots of money to pay them if they do well, right? And so it's about, I believe in small base, large performance possibilities, and performance should be based on how well the profitability of the company is, either in gross or profits. I started with gross. I don't like gross anymore because people can make a lot of money and you make nothing. And then people say, well, I don't want them to know my profits. Well, you know what? They're going to have to know your profits to do the right job, probably. And not everybody's going to be on profit sharing, but I think take your main people, offer them the opportunity, and they don't have to have equity. I don't do equity, but they don't have to have equity if they have profits. And by the way, a lot of people, they don't really care about the equity because unless you're going to sell the company. So what's a piece of paper and stock going to do sitting in their basement? Who cares? So so unless it's a real partner, and then you can say later on partnerships might be available. For right now, I pass on the equity, I pass on high bases, I go on low bases, and I would give large performance elements, X% of net profit, and it's based on the profitability of the company. And then if you make a lot of money, you should be giving them quite a bit of it.
And I think this is also outstanding advice, not so much for somebody who's looking to hire somebody, but for somebody who's looking even for a job. Like, that mindset is so crucial. Everybody says, oh, I can't get a job, I can't find, a position in this particular company because it's too competitive. Well, how many of those same people would go to that company and say, listen, I'm so confident in my abilities that I will come to work with you for 2 weeks or a month, free of charge. I mean, if somebody doesn't have a job, why not go work for somebody for free, for no money? At least you have something to put on your resume if it doesn't work out. But who could refuse an offer like that if you had on paper said specifically, this is the outcome I'd like to create for you, and this is the outcome I believe I can create within these 30 days, and you can make that any kind of outcome you want, and say, I just want to prove how intelligent and how hardworking I am and how dedicated I am and how committed I am to want to work for your company. Who in their right mind could refuse an offer like that, even if they don't have a job available? I guarantee you, if you show the moxie and the intelligence and the wherewithal to want to work for them, and you show a way that you can bring value to their company, they will find a position for you.
And if they don't, then you don't want to work for them. Yeah, so I think you mentioned it earlier. You talked about apprenticeships. That whole art is gone. And what you're talking about, by the way, I believe it's Speed Wealth or one of my earlier works, I talk about that's what I used to do all the time. I've had 14 different jobs. I've never had a job for more than 3 weeks. That's all I did is I think about a business I'm considering getting into, then I take 2 or 3 or 4 jobs before I start that business. So I might as well learn on somebody else's ticket and see what's going on in the real world versus in what was going on in my head. And then I see what reality is, and then I go ahead and start the business. You know what I find? We teach people train the trainer. We tell people, you want to volunteer for Peaks at the back of the room to, first of all, serve the clients, secondly, give back, and secondly, hopefully you'll be of service to us. That'd be nice. But mostly, hey, nobody's stupid here. You want to be in the back of the room helping Peaks do what we do at the seminars. If you're going to teach seminars, you have to know that. You have to know how the handouts work. You have to know how the timing works. You have to know what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, can you imagine saying, okay, I'm going to be a film director, and you've never been behind the camera? You've only been in the front of the camera, and you're going to be a film director? You've never even looked at it. You don't even know anything? You're going to fail. But that's what people do. They just are not willing to put what it takes in. And when people say to me, they ask me all these questions about this and that, and I go, have you ever been in the back of our room? Have you ever volunteered to support the back of the room in logistics? They go, well, no, I don't have time. I go, you know what? I don't have time to answer your question either. Because what would be the difference of me answering their question? It's just going to go in one ear and out the other. They go, well, I'm not sure exactly. How did you say you do the handouts? I go, have you ever volunteered for Peaks? Yeah, have you ever done handouts? Well, no. Well, then go volunteer and do handouts for 3 days, and then you don't have to answer me the question, do you?
Right, and it's the cheapest form of education on the planet. We don't even bat an eye at paying $30,000, $50,000, $40,000 a year for college, but then once we leave those colleges, we think that any place that we now go to continue our learning, that they have to pay us, which doesn't make any sense. In this economy, it makes no sense, and in the future economy, I can promise you it's going to make even less sense for people to think like that. We have to take a proactive stance with this.
What did I say earlier? Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I think so. Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, you know what? You gotta be willing to do what it takes, and if you want to be your rewards. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Again, it's been a lot of my earlier work. I said if you want to know exactly how good you are at your business, look at your paycheck. look at your paycheck. That will tell you everything you need to know. And if you're not happy with your paycheck, then you need to get a lot better at what you do. And it's not just the skills, it's the business, and it's all of the business. Not just the front end, it's the back end. Not just the back end, it's the front end. Every part of it, okay? I'm involved very heavily in my business because I have to be. You think I want to be? Well, not particularly. I'd like to be out there doing, writing more books and being on stage even more, and I've got to run this 170-person business. And why? Because if you notice, it's working. And so why would I change that? And I won't change it until. And by the way, I have tried to change it so far. I've brought in, a couple of people to try and run things, but they just don't have what it seems that I understand. Why? Because they've never really been in this business full on. And so I don't believe there's going to be a time where I can just, in the next, a few weeks, just bring somebody in and go, they're just going to run the thing. I don't have to be there anymore. You know what? Unfortunately, I'd like to be an avoider like that, and it'd be a little more comfortable, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So when that person who comes in and helps run the company, when that person can show that they can run it without me completely, which might take a year or 2 years or 3 years, then I'll be willing to let that go. But don't let go of the reins before the horse is tamed out, okay? That's a lot of people do that. They don't tame the horse, and then they let go of the reins, and they wonder why the horse has gone berserk. And it jumped over the fence. It's running the wrong way. What happened? Well, you're responsible. You're accountable. At the end result, you are accountable, period, over and out. The buck stops with you, one way or the other.
We get exactly the employees we deserve also, because if we're not training them, if we're not creating the systems for them to succeed within, then we're going to get exactly the company that we are creating. And
right.
I totally agree with you.
Okay.
On that note, Harv, we've gone way over, and I just this has been just an amazing time with you, and I'm sure our members are just getting so much benefit from these monthly interviews.
Well, hopefully we're going to find out what they think. Take the questions,
yes.
Give it to them. Let's get your answers. What did you agree? Did you think? What's some other thoughts you have? What's some other advice you have for people? Let's get your brain power at work. And just again, if we have 5,000 or 10,000 members and we have 5,000 or 10,000 brains working on a topic, oh my gosh, how would that be?
But Harv, I just want to thank you for your time and your patience with all these questions and the time that I know you take to prepare and answering each and every one of them. So on behalf of all of our listeners, I just want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to have this site, giving us the opportunity to enjoy your work and to benefit from all the wisdom and knowledge you've accumulated over the past 30 years. So thank you, Harv, on behalf of everybody, and I very much look forward to next month's interview, and I wish you all the success in the world.
Hey, thanks so much. Same with yourself, Len. You're doing an awesome job, and I really appreciate everyone's support and everyone being a member of the Rich Life Club. This is a very important element to me. It's a forum for me to be able to express some of my methodologies and learnings and skills and things like that. Because as I said earlier, if you have them and you don't use them or express them, what good are they? And so I think we're going to be really building this thing on. I've got lots of new ideas. If anyone hasn't watched the adventures yet, I want you to watch them. I also want you to tell me where to go, not in a negative way. I want you to tell me, you say, give me some suggestions. Harv, if you want a great adventure, if you want to go to a great hike, you want to do this, fantastic, so we can all watch you, go there with you, go here or go there. And, with your suggestions, I'm going to hit some great places that I didn't even know about probably, and take your advice, and then hopefully I'll bring the camera with me, and you'll be able to join me on my trips. So we'll all take a trip together. I think it's a lot of fun. By the way, I really enjoy doing that. It's kind of like, I really get to feel like when I'm hiking for 4 hours on my own, I get to feel like you're with me, and I get to feel like there's hundreds or thousands of people with me on this hike. It's so cool that I get a chance to talk to you while I'm on these adventures here. And I've got a couple of in mind, but I really want to get your input as to where do you want Harv to go, and go with, where should we go with Harv, that kind of thing. Okay, so put something up like that.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much, Harv, and I appreciate it.
On behalf of T. Harv Eker and myself, we thank you for listening, and we look forward to hearing about your rich life success.